Howdy y'all, welcome to Lax Lives. I think it's time to play a little Minecraft. Alright. Right. We were making gray concrete powder at the end of last episode. I couldn't remember where we left off. I'm gonna wait for it to get, technically I guess I do have a bed over there. Let's just use that one, I guess. I don't want to be wasting my time waiting for it to get dark. I got things to work on. What, I don't know, but something. I'm sure there's something I want to do. Check out my bridge. That's what I want to do. Look at that bridge. So fancy. I need to finish that thing. I need to get the rest of those lights on there. Or not rest of the lights, but fix the lights because I didn't like the way they looked. But I wanted to get over here and get some road in, so I can kind of call this place semi-done and decide what I'm doing on that side of the road. I feel a little weird because like I might just turn it into a farm, I think. Because, I mean, they got the sheep farm there, so I should probably turn it into some kind of farm, right, for the sheep? I guess. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6... Oh, look at that. That was an accident. My accident put the stuff in exactly the spot I needed. That's crazy. So, today is my D&D day with the family, and man, we had quite a session, that's for sure. It took way longer than it should have. Man, they if it's not one kid, it's the other, and so today the nephew was like bouncing off the walls crazy. And then it seemed like every time we tried to do something, his dad was constantly making him laugh because he thought it was funny. And then they would just sit there and laugh with each other for like 2 minutes at a time while the other two people at the table are trying to play D&D. Which is like an incessant, never-ending craze fest. Man, I brought all this stuff, and I feel like all I'm gonna do is get the sinners done. But yeah, it went pretty good today. As I've stated before, and will probably continue to state, they work for an organization called the Claws of Lum, and so the last time they were at the Claws, I want to say it must have been close to 10 weeks ago at this point. At least 10, maybe more, of real-life weeks. In-game, it's only been like 2 weeks and a couple of days since the last time we were there. No, it's probably been about 3 weeks since they were back at their base. In real life, though, it took them like 10 weeks to get through what we did. And they had 3 missions, and 2 of them were in the same place. And so, first they had to deal with some drow slavers. And so they went and they dealt with that. That didn't take too long. I want to say they finished that in about a session. And then they started in on You know, I should probably change this road into a curve, right? I don't think there's really a reason to have this road not be a curve. So let's tear this out and see. I probably didn't need to tear all that out, but okay. So this road here, well, I guess I should do this part first, and then that way I will know. I will know where this curve goes, right? Because the road doesn't go straight or anything, so there's no reason for it to be such a sharp T. So... Whoa, wrong button, sorry. So we go over... Might need to start this back a little farther. So we go over 2 here. Better make it 3. And then... That is not how I'm doing this. Wow, I've screwed this right up already. Didn't take me long. Yeah, so they first they had to go deal with the drow slavers. They managed that pretty easily. And then next was the ruins, and man, they must have taken... Albeit the ruins was a pretty big story. So I wasn't that unexpected for them to take as long as they did. Okay, so bring this over 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So yeah, that's probably a good spot to curve this here. We'll see what this looks like after I do this. Okay. And so they managed to deal with everything at the ruins. Basically, the ruins were what they went in. They met a vampire who had rescued some of the people from the drow, and now had them as his servants. And which was an interesting debate amongst the party over whether or not they should fight and kill said vampire. Somehow this turned into a 3 going around this corner, and I don't like it, so... One, 2... There we go. 1, 2, 3... Over... There we go. And so they eventually decide not to fight the guy, and which is good because he was really powerful. And so he tells them about what's been going down in the city, and they discover that there's actually this crazy wizard who is responsible for all the undead things that are happening, because they were told to go clear the city of undead. That was their mission. And so they talk with the vampire, and then they agree to work with him a little bit. And okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7? Does that seem right? 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Because this is 7 here. So um, so somewhere here, this has got to switch the other direction like I did up here, which is just a one single block in the middle. So let's do it from that, which would be here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, and then here, and then we start doing this, right? 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7. So then we got 1, 2, 3 over 1, 2, 3 over 1, 2, 3 over 1, which means that this has all got to come out. Okay, and then all this has got to come out, and then we have our pattern, at least for that part, to see how this works. So they wind up having to go and fight in a barracks to shut down the magic defenses. They wind up having to go and deal with there's a group of werebores that work for the wizard, and so they have to go deal with their nest, den. I guess den would be correct. And then they finally make it to the wizard's tower. They fight their way through the wizard's tower. It's only 4 floors because the rest of it's been flooded underwater, and fight the wizard. And so they started today's session with chat with the vampire. He thanked them for their time. He gave them a note from their boss and a letter for their boss. And so when they opened the note said, you have been contracted to guard a caravan from the nearby village, which is where they rescued the people from. And okay, so now here's where it gets weird. So this here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Right? So this is like this. Which means this has got to be like that. Which only makes that 6. So this has got to be 7. This has got to be 7. What do I got to do here to make this work? 1, you got to do this. 2, 3, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yep. Don't ask me what I was doing there. I was going crazy a little bit. That's what I need. Okay. And then we go over 1, 2, 1, 2, 3 over 1, 2, which would be 3, and over. Now where's this spot in the middle here I need? 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7. So that's the switch over spot. So if all of this lines up to 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, this doesn't line up. This doesn't line up at all. Well, now I have that middle point, I can make it line up regardless of what the rest of this looks like. And so they make it back to the town nearby. And when they were at the town, oh, you know why? Because this is, no, I think this is right. And then this is the center point. And then 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3. Okay. And then this goes like this. Nope. Does not go like that. And so they chat a little bit there with people. They ran into the guy who ran the first caravan that they were guards for, and he does work for the organization that they are a part of. So they actually wound up having to. Oh yeah. See, that makes total sense. I got crazy is what happened. Everything shifts over because of the angles. And so the first angle from here would have been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 over 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 6, 7, and this would have been the first angle. Yeah, I don't know what I did there, but hey, it works now. Alright, see, and then we wind up with a nice little curve here, since the road doesn't go straight. Because if it went straight, it would go right into the sheep pen, and I don't want a road crashing directly into the sheep pen. That wouldn't make any sense. Oop. Not at all. Alright, and then I still have 9 of these left, so I guess let's just dump them in here. And that gets this all lined out. So then they, oh look, I got 28 more. And then I have to go get more squid ink. I actually ran out of squid ink instead of gravel and sand, which is crazy. Okay, let's go hunt some more squid. So they went with the caravan, and then as they were going, they saw smoke in the distance, and so they stopped the caravan, and when they went to now, mind you, they've been doing crazy things all day today, the entire group. And they were just weirdly giddy today. I don't know what was going on. But, like, I asked them if they wanted to do anything while they were in the caravan, because the caravan's, taking 2 weeks to get back to the city. And they're like, oh, well, so the two of them started rolling dice to play dice games against each other. And then the one guy, he's like, the kid, the nephew, he's like, I'm going to play my pan flute, because he has a pan flute from his thing. The problem is he does not have any bonus to proficiencies, and so he rolls a 5 on his dice roll to play. So I'm like, well, you hit notes, or maybe he rolled a 6, actually. He rolled a 6. And so the character sitting with him, she's like, "Yeah, I don't want to listen to that for X amount of weeks, or the 2 weeks it's gonna take to get home. So you mind giving it a rest?" And so he's like, "I continue playing my pan flute." And so then they start to roll for fighting over the pan flute. I had him roll to see how well constructed the pan flute was, because pan flute is like reeds tied together, right? And so he rolled really well on the pan flute construction, and so uh, just because you know how to make it doesn't mean you know how to play it. And so he fought with her a little bit and managed to hang on to his pan flute. And or no, he didn't manage to hang on his pan flute. She took it from him, and then he took it back because I had her roll sleight of hand, which is hiding what you're doing, to see if he would think somebody else took it since they were in a wagon with other people. But no, she rolled really low, and he rolled really high for that kind of stuff, and so he took it back from her. He starts playing it again. He rolled even worse, and so then she tried to persuade him with some rolls, and he easily beat her persuasion rolls, and so eventually he finally decided to stop doing it. But the whole time they're all just laughing and giggling, and I'm just like, I've got things to do with the storyline today, and you guys are just they were laughing about who's gonna get in which position. They're choosing wagons, and the one guy's like, "I'm getting up on the nephew's like, I'm getting up on the flower wagon." And I'm like, "Okay, which one? Who's sitting in the first wagon, second wagon, third wagon, fourth wagon?" And he's like, "I'm getting in the fourth wagon, and I'm gonna sit on I'm gonna stand on the bags of flour." And I'm like, "Okay, well, it's moving the entire time for 2 weeks." He's like, "Oh, well, I guess I'll sit on the flour." And so then his dad is like, "Ew, make sure that when I have some flour, I don't get any dragon butt flour." And because the nephew plays a dragonborn, which is basically a lizard man with breath weapon. And so then of course that sets them off on another round of giggling and laughing and just going crazy. And so yeah, that went on for a while, and then finally we get past that, and then they get to this fire in the distance, and so when they go up to check, I've got some reoccurring NPCs, and so one of them is I've got a gnoll character because I've tweaked some of the default races and stuff a bit for my world. So one of the things I tweaked was the gnolls. I don't like their official background story, and I prefer for them to be an actual race, and in their story they're like mutated hyenas by magic, and I'd rather they're like an actual race that exists, only they don't know it yet, but a lot of them have been forced into serving a tyrant that's going to tie into some of their backstories. I was looking for more squid. But as soon as I get their backstories anyways, they said they started writing them. Now would be a great time to have them because we're starting a new story arc, so I would know if I could tie in their backgrounds into what we're about to do, but nobody gave me a background today. So I guess we won't have the chance to tie those in. Ooh, I almost made a mistake there. I need gray die. I think 30 was actually more than what I have available, right? Nope, 32. I need 32. Alright, let me get some more bone meal here. Is that gray dye? Yeah, give me that. And so they went ahead and so one of the characters I have, speaking of gnolls, is a type of gnoll that exists in my world called a wolfen. And I know it's a little, you know, I don't want to say cringy, but kind of cliched, I guess. The noble wolf, but that's what he is. He's not really a wolf, though. He's still a canine. He's just, you know, he's like a husky kind of thing, I guess. I don't know. I just wanted a gnoll who was hunting other gnolls, and that was what I came up with when I made him up real quick. And so they, the kind of gnolls they're fighting are more like hyenas. But they wiped out his village and most of his clan, and so now he hunts them in the company of a human that they know. And so they they hear the howling in the distance, and they see the smoke in the distance. And so it couldn't have played out better than I wanted. I'm like, there's a ridge in between you and whatever's howling. And so two of them are like, well, we're going to go stealth. And I'm like, all right, so roll your stealth. And so they roll their stealth, and everybody else is like, yeah, we'll just hang back until they tell us what they see. And so they get there, and it's great because they act surprised by everything that happens. Like, they are surprised by everything that happens, but it's like this is a reoccurring NPC you've seen multiple times at this point. You should be aware that the big guy, the big gnoll who's got white, black, and gray fur and has metal claw caps and metal fang caps, so that I can give him, you know, magic weapons for his melee attacks, basically. Is that guy that you know, because how many other gnolls have you seen who fights hand to hand like that? He's not a monk, though. He's a barbarian ranger multiclass, and which makes him pretty interesting. And so they come up over the hill, they hear the howling. What they don't know is the howling is we're running away, because they don't speak gnoll. And so when they come over the hill, they see the gnolls starting to come up over the hill, howling, running toward them. They ready their weapons, and all of a sudden the gnolls get yanked backwards as the wolfen gnoll grabs them from behind and kills them. And so when they climb a little farther up over the ridge, they can see him standing there with, you know, his claws jammed into him. And and so they're like, oh, what is it? We should hide. We don't know what it is. And then the nephew's like, ooh, I think it's that guy. And then his mother, who's playing the other character, is like, what guy? I don't think we've ever seen anything like this. And he's like, you know, that guy back at that place. And then suddenly dawns on her, oh, right, that's that gnoll that runs with that human guy. That's the brother to that other NPC that we occasionally run into. And he's like, yeah, what was that guy's name? And then they couldn't remember what his name was. But so they eventually talk with them, and then he wants to play his pan flute again. I don't know what he was all about the pan flute today. And so when they came over the rise, though, they'd come across a small grove of I called them forest people. They were Yeti, or Bigfoots, basically. That if they fought them would have the stats of a Yeti. And so they were starting a funeral thing, pyres for their dead, because they had just been invaded by gnolls, and the dude was there helping clean up the, you know, killing the gnolls, because that's what he does, is he hunts gnolls. Him and his team. And so he wants to go over and play the pan flute, and I'm like, well, you're too far away to play the pan flute. It's like, I go over near them. I'm like, okay, well, as you walk over toward them out of the forest, you hear thundering stampede, um, and before you can get anywhere near them, standing about 15 feet, well, not 15 feet, 15 hands high at the shoulder, glistening white fur is a unicorn, who aggressively indicates that it does not want you to go anywhere near the forest people. And so he's like, I put my pan flute away and turn around and go back to the group. I'm like, good idea. And so then they go a little farther with the caravan, and eventually they see the smoke in the distance, and they split off with the caravan because they're close to home, and so they run into their third mission that they were told, which was Lizard Man attacks, and so they followed some trails of a large lizard-like creature and a bunch of smaller bipedal-looking lizard-like tracks, and so then I had them fight a huge group of lizardmen, and uh, and two Stegosaurus, because when they get to the other side of the mountain where they're headed to next, they're gonna find that there's a jungle on that side of the mountain where the dinos live, because they've fought a couple of smaller dinos in an arena one time, but this was the first big ones they've seen. And although only one of the dinos managed to land a hit, which was a shame. Dude got hit for like 27 points of damage from its tail before they managed to kill it. And I mean, it's not a shame that they won. It's just, it's a dinosaur. I wanted to hit way harder. I did beef up its attacks a bit because they only got one attack and they weren't hitting anything. I'm thinking they probably, after I added multi-attack, total got about 7 attacks and only one of them landed. And they have pretty decent adds. I was just rolling terrible today. One time I rolled 3 attacks. I got a 2, a 1, and a 2 on a 20-sided dice. So a 2, a 1, and a 2. And which doesn't hit anything. That's terrible. And so they fought those off, and then they went back, and I'd done this. We done this, did this thing, done this thing. I don't know. I really do know how to speak. So they did this thing where they, when they level up, that it's story played when they level up, and so we've stuck with it. And so even if they're out and about, they have to hit those story elements to be able to get their new abilities. And so I decided to switch out my character's subclass. I like being a fighter, but I don't like being a battle master fighter. It's not enjoyable to me. I can see where it's useful, but I don't enjoy it. And so I want to switch my archer fighter over to an arcane archer. And so at the end of the ruins story, where they fought the crazy undead wizard with the vampire, helping out the vampire, I had the I had the machinery he was using explode and pepper the guy with crystal shards, and so they couldn't get him to regain consciousness, because every time they used a spell on him, the shards absorbed the magic. And I didn't have any clue on how they were going to fix it. I hoped they would take him to the grove nearby where the Fae live and try and make a deal with them, but they completely capitulated immediately to making a deal with them. So I was like, man, they didn't even try to discuss what the cure was going to be. And so I'm like, well, maybe I can swing this a different way than I don't know, because I wanted him to switch subclasses, and so I decided to make the payment his memories, and so they took everything about him being a battle master. And so now he has no abilities. And when he first tries to shoot his bow today, the arrow glows green. I rolled to hit. He gets 2 attacks right now with his bow per turn. And so my first one hit, and my second one was a 1. And so I'm like, you know what, I'm going to reverse these. And so I'm like, he pulls back on the bow, and the arrow glows green because the arcane archer, every time they shoot an arrow, it's a magic +1 arrow. And but it's their skill, and it's not the arrow. And so I'm like, the arrow glows green, and he's so startled that when he lets go of the bow, it's nowhere near the target. And then the second one hit, and but he hasn't gained the ability to use any of the other things, which are going to be useful coming up here for sure, the way I roll. But so at the end of the session today, well, it wasn't even the end of the session. We went upstairs because the 4-year-old decided she'd had enough, and she doesn't play, but she refuses to do something else. Like, if you want her to do something with you, she doesn't want to have anything to do with you and wants to play by herself. But as soon as you try to play by yourself, with her doing her thing by herself, she doesn't want to do the thing by herself. She immediately demands that you spend all the time with her. Even though the previous 3 hours before we started, she wanted nothing to do with anybody else when they were trying to get her to do things with them. And it's crazy. Every week is the same. And so we wound up going upstairs and to where the kitchen's at. And so I stood in the kitchen and wrapped up the end of the story for this week, because my sister was cooking grilled cheese for her children at that point. And so I'm like, well, we can just wrap this up here at the stove, because it didn't have anything to do with the other characters. It was just the 2 characters I play and her character. And so they went in the grove, and there are rules when you go in the grove. You don't leave the path, and you don't make a deal with Fae. And so, of course, she's explaining what she wants from the Fae Guardian, and how the character that I play, they don't know why they're there. She just took them there, and she's like, he's lost his memories, and we were hoping you could do something about it. And so I make a big sniff, and I'm like, ooh, I can smell the other Fae Guardian on him. And he's like, so what does he want? And she's like, well, we need information. And he's like, he took your memories. And she's like, yes, that's what he did. Like, she's surprised, like, on the same, it's me, dude, I'm telling the story, I know what happened. And so he says he can try and fix it, and he points off the path, and he's like, have him go. And so he looks at her, he's like, what am I supposed to do? And because she's familiar with this Fae Guardian, she's spoken with him several times at this point. Nobody else has, just her. And so she's like, well, do what he says, just head off the path there into the woods. And so he steps into the woods and vanishes. And so then she's like, and so then his sister is the other character that's there, and she throws a fit because now her brother just vanished. And so she's like wild-eyed looking at me like, what happened to him? What is he gonna do to him? I'm like, what are the rules to the Fae Grove? And she's like, never leave the path, never make a deal. I'm like, yeah, what'd you just have him do? I told him to leave the path, and he did it. I'm like, yep. She's like, oh no, she's gonna kill me. I'm like, we'll see. And she's like, she's gonna kill me. Talking about the other character whose brother just vanished. And so they waited. She told the other character that he'd return at sunset. And so then at sunset, he doesn't return. And the Fae Grove swaps from summer to winter, and so they decide they'd better leave. and come back tomorrow when it's daytime. And then when they woke up in the morning, he was asleep in his bed. So he's gonna not have any memories of what happened, but finally regaining his memories. Oh, and finally, we're like level 7 now, and at level 6, I got the ability, um, or at level 6 you get a feat, and which is a new ability of your choice from a list. If you're playing that way, and we're playing that way, and so the feat I took was called Lucky, and because we do the thing where we story play why. Oh no, did I just do that wrong? Dang it! I just made white concrete powder. Ugh. Can I change it to a different color? Does it change? Can I? Dang it! Dang it! That's all right. I mean, it's not all right, but what am I gonna do about it? So I said, "Ooh, you know what? I'll make this interesting since there was a Fey Grove, so our one spellcaster got her abilities. I'm still not sure what I'm going to do about the Warlock, because she doesn't. Her abilities come from another creature that she doesn't really necessarily commune with, and so her one new ability she's got since they joined, she got a new invocation. And so I think I like the way I did that. She was looking in the library, but the library is an ancient library, so everything's written in, I told them, ancient Elvish, and so none of them could read the books. But the vampire, who's old enough, does read the ancient Elvish that it's written in. Like they could piece out a few words. I talked about this before. They're like, well, we can read Old English. I'm like, I'm not sure you know what you're talking about. And they're like, the these and thous. I'm like, yeah, that's modern English. That's just an archaic form of modern English. So I wrote down a couple of words in Old English. I'm like, what are these words? And then I'll tell you whether or not you can read Old Elvish as elves. Because they're young elves. If they were old elves, it'd be different. But they didn't choose to be old elves. They choose to be, like 20-something elves. So they're still babies, practically, to the elves. And yeah, no, they don't. They definitely don't speak Old Elvish. And so yeah. But so she's looking at the books, and then the one guy, he's like, the the monk, the nephew, he's obsessed with poison. Oh man, I've gone way over time here. He's obsessed with poison, so he keeps wanting to check all the books for poison books. And so he's like, I don't know what you're looking at those books for. They're not in a language any of us can understand. And she's like, oh, okay. And so she's flipping through the book, and then she drops the book and grabs her eyes and starts to kind of whimper, and then collapses on the ground. Oh, dang it! I missed my drop, and then black wisps of power come streaming between her fingers, and so when she finally stands back up after they come and try and help her, she takes her hands away and blinks her eyes a bit, not quite understanding what happened, and of course what has happened is she's gained her new ability, which is being able to read any written language, her Eldritch Invocation for level 7. So now she can read any written language, and she has new tattoos on her eyelids to indicate her new power. So I'll probably keep doing something like that with her. But her now Fey-granted, magic-wielding arcane archer brother will have to meditate in the Fey Grove to get his abilities, just like the druid does. In fact, I think he's actually going to have to disappear into the Fey Grove to get his. So who knows what kind of hijinks we can do with that. But yeah, we're done with that story. So now next session we'll be starting a whole new story arc. We are finally going to head into across the mountains to Knoll Land, where the invading armies of Knolls have already started pouring across. They saw a huge contingent of armed soldiers at the city today, and yeah, should be fun. So, all right, with that, click like, subscribe, be sure and catch the next one, and I will talk to you later.